A true American hero, Bill Lazetich, who was willing to give up his life on the football field to serve his country on the battlefield. Chris, this is something that you've been working on for quite some time. Let's kind of set up how this all came to be and the story that you're going to be sharing with us.
Well, I had this book for Christmas last year from my wife, and she knows that I'm an absolute history buff when it comes to its particular World War II.
Yeah.
And she saw a piece on the morning news and had the author of this book on, and he talked about a football game that was played on the beach of Guadalcanal in World War II, and it was called the Mosquito Bowl.
Yeah.
It pit the 4th Marines against the 29th. A lot of trash talking about who had the better football players. Because keep in mind, these are all American players within that company that are drafted to serve in World War II. So they're 7,000 miles away from home. They decide to play this football game to see who can win between the two. And the hope that my wife had was that there might be someone or have some Montana connection.
Yeah.
Well, I came running out of my office one morning about 10:30, and
I got it.
I said, Lynn, it's right here. And lo and behold, when they listed the guys that played in that game, Bill Lazetich.
Yeah. It's remarkable.
Played in that game. Legendary coach here in Montana, multiple state championships, famous family.
Yeah.
Uncle played in the NFL. Bill played in the NFL. Son played in the NFL. It was incredible to see the connection. And then that was the genesis of how this whole thing started. And then it was just a matter of doing interviews, making phone calls, and trying to piece this story together. And it was really something to do.
It's quite remarkable. Again, we're going to see the whole piece in the 6:30, but to kind of set this up, going from Guadalcanal, which, if you're not familiar, Japan had been at war with China since 1931.
Right.
It is a machine, a military machine at this point. By the time Pearl Harbor occurs, they've been going for more than a decade. Mm-hmm. America responds. They go down the Guadalcanal, kind of the staging area.
Yep.
As kind of to stop the Japanese expansion in the South Pacific. If they can hold that island, then they can launch back towards Japan mainland. But I mean, a bloody battle. I think it was 1,598 Marines were killed there, another 5,000 to 6,000 injured. There's missing in action. I mean, this was not a place you wanted to be.
No, not at all. And it was a series of island hopping to get closer to mainland Japan so that those planes, as you talk about, could get there to launch from Guadalcanal and ultimately Okinawa. That was the closest island. So it was defended fervently by the Japanese. 100,000 troops came to defend Okinawa. But we're going to show you a little bit of the story that's coming up at 6:30 from over in Guadalcanal. Bill Lazetich is about to join a more dangerous team, Marine 1st Raider Battalion. He's stationed in the Pacific Theater, where the Allies continue an island-hopping campaign that is leading them closer to mainland Japan. The fighting is vicious. Marines met at the beach with constant fire from the Japanese.
They fought with fanatical fury.
As the war drags on, U.S. troops are making progress. And after capturing Guadalcanal, they are one step away from the last major island to capture, Okinawa. Life on Guadalcanal is tedious, a staging area for what looms ahead. It is there the 4th Marine Division, which includes Bill Lazetich, and the 29th Division debate who could field a better football team. Now keep in mind, both are loaded with All-Americans and NFL stars. It's decided they'll play a game, aptly named the Mosquito Bowl. A field is constructed on the beach. Armed Forces Radio will broadcast the game. Thousands of troops are in attendance. Christmas Eve, 1944. The game itself ends in a 0-0 tie. What started out as a touch game quickly escalates into full-scale contact. Players quickly realize if they're injured in the game, they just might avoid the looming battle of Okinawa.
He said, brawl. He said guys were not only trying to knock out their opponent, they were trying to get themselves knocked out. It was supposed to be touch or flag, but he said that went out the window after about 3 plays.
Yeah, pretty amazing that they would play this football game as they were getting ready to invade Okinawa.
Yeah.
And then coming up at 6:30, what's so remarkable about the piece is what he does with his life when he comes home.
Yeah.
From what was just a horrific experience in the Pacific, goes on to become a Hall of Fame coach, a great husband and father, and just what he did after he returns home is pretty special.
Stick around for that. It's a wonderful piece. Again, Chris Byers joins us with this story now about how sports and the reality of war collided over 80 years ago. Hey there, Chris.
Well, John, imagine being a star football player in college. Promising career coming up in the NFL. Then life changes. A world war breaks out and millions of young men are called to serve. Everything is about to change for Anaconda's Bill Lazetich. He's a Marine stationed thousands of miles away in the Pacific Theater. While there, he'll face the brutality of war and will play in the most unlikely football game of his own, the Mosquito Bowl. William Bill Lazetich is living the American dream. Born October 16, 1916, Bill is one of 9 children to Peter and Mary Lazetich. Immigrants from Serbia, Peter and Mary settled in Anaconda, operating a small dairy farm. Bill's athletic, star athlete at Anaconda High School. In 1934, the Wonder Team, as they were called, win a state basketball championship. His skills land him a scholarship at the University of Montana, where he would go on to win 9 varsity letters in 3 sports. That's the most you could win at the time. Bill earned the first ever Grizzly Cup for his skills in athletics, academics, and service to the community. It's a great life for the youngster from Anaconda. In fact, he's one of the very few to have a car to drive on campus. Turns out there was more than dairy milk in those containers back on the farm.
Milk's on the top and the booze is on the bottom. And that's what came in those milk jugs.
False milk jugs?
Oh, yes, false milk. Well, they used to talk about Grandpa Lazetich being able to take a 5-gallon, and he's just stocky. But when you see Grandma Lazetich, you'll know why these kids were as tough as they were.
In 1939, Bill is drafted by the Cleveland Rams and spends 2 years in the NFL. From high school to college to the pros, Bill Lazetich is well on his way to becoming one of the all-time greats from Montana. Along with brother Millen, the two seem destined to do big things on pro football's biggest stage.
Their careers from Anaconda to the University of Montana to the NFL, and they both played at the same time.
Bill's love of sports and the reality of life collide. December 7th, 1941, and the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The United States is plunged into World War II. The call to arms is about to disrupt the lives of young men across the nation, eager to defend itself from Japan and Nazi Germany.
The attack on Pearl Harbor united Americans as never before in history. In the explosions at Pearl Harbor, there was forged the will for complete and absolute victory over the forces of evil.
Bill Lazetich answers the call, and there is no doubt which branch of the service he will enlist in.
He was very proud of being a Marine. And when we asked him, he enlisted, he said, I picked the Marines. He said, I wanted to be with the best, and I wanted to be surrounded by the best. And that was a team to him.
The Marines dare not waste a moment encountering their implacable, impersonal, hateful foe, the jungle.
Bill Lazetich is about to join a more dangerous team, Marine 1st Raider Battalion. He's stationed in the Pacific Theater, where the Allies continue an island-hopping campaign that is leading them closer to mainland Japan. The fighting is vicious. Marines met at the beach with constant fire from the Japanese.
They fought with fanatical fury.
As the war drags on, U.S. troops are making progress. And after capturing Guadalcanal, they are one step away from the last major island to capture, Okinawa. Life on Guadalcanal is tedious, a staging area for what looms ahead. It is there the 4th Marine Division, which includes Bill Lazetich, and the 29th Division debate who could field a better football team. Now keep in mind, both are loaded with All-Americans and NFL stars. It's decided they'll play a game, aptly named the Mosquito Bowl. A field is constructed on the beach. Armed Forces Radio will broadcast the game. Thousands of troops are in attendance. Christmas Eve, 1944. The game itself ends in a 0-0 tie. What started out as a touch game quickly escalates into full-scale contact. Players quickly realize if they're injured in the game, they just might avoid the looming battle of Okinawa.
He said, brawl. He said guys were not only trying to knock out their opponent, they were trying to get themselves knocked out. It was supposed to be touch or flag, but he said that went out the window after about 3 plays.
American troops landed on Okinawa. It was Easter Sunday, 1945. It was also April Fool's Day.
It marked the beginning of the most bitter island battle in modern history.
Of the 65 men who play in the Mosquito Bowl, 15 will die in Okinawa. The Battle of Okinawa begins April 1st, 1945, and lasts a total of 82 days. It will be the last major battle of World War II, with the collapse of Germany imminent. The fighting, brutal, often hand-to-hand combat. 3,000 Japanese, Americans, and Okinawans are killed every day for the next 82 days. In all, 250,000 will lose their lives on the tiny island, but in the end, the Allies prevail. Bill Lazetich is wounded twice, one damaging his calf so bad he will never play football again. Lazetich recovers from his wounds and returns to the front lines. He becomes one of the first Americans to set foot on Japanese soil after atomic bombs are dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Bill Lazetich receives the Purple Heart and is on his way home. The war is over.
And as the surviving Marines wave goodbye, one of the greatest tales of heroism slips out of focus into history.
Bill returns to Montana with an eye on teaching and coaching. He meets Daisy Pekich. They marry July 20th, 1947. She is the love of his life, married for 55 years with 4 children. Bill spends the next 30 years at Billings Senior. In 1947, he guides the Bronx to a state football title. After a decade on the sidelines, he switches to basketball and coaches for another 22 years, winning state titles in 1960 and 1967. The 67 title game, no question a father-son moment. Son Pete is on that team and, as it turns out, hits the game winner in overtime against West High in front of 10,000 fans.
It was fun. It was great, and it was fun playing for my dad and winning an issue at all. Everybody in the state knew him, they knew us, and so, like I say, when we showed up, we should have got a piece of the action because they turned out to see us, and we had some great ball players.
For Pete Lazetich, that game just a prelude to a remarkable career of his own.